In this video, I'll walk you through activating and using the Nick Collection plugins within Affinity Photo. I've installed the plugins and have opened this document to start with. I want to use the Nick Output Sharpener plugin, which works best when the image is already at its intended final size or resolution, so I'll quickly use the crop tool and go for a 5x7" crop at 300 dpi. This also resamples the pixel resolution. Now, if you go to the Filters menu and then the Plugins category, you may not see the plugins listed. Plugins that are not rigorously tested internally are flagged as unknown, so must be enabled manually within the app settings. To access the settings dialog, I'll go to the Title menu on Mac, or on Windows, you would go to the Edit menu, then choose Settings. On the Photoshop Plugins section, I'll enable Allow Unknown Plugins to be Used. Then close the dialog. The plugins will now appear, but they are all grayed out. This is because they need to be run on a pixel layer. I currently have an adjustment layer selected. In this case, I'll need to create a new merged pixel layer containing all of my layer work so far. I can do this by going to Layer, Merge Visible. Then I'll run the Nick Sharpener Output plugin. I'll switch to a 200% view and pan to the head of the bird, which is where sharpness needs to be crucial. Then I'll adjust the parameters on the right-hand side. I'll switch to Inkjet for my output as I'll be printing this image, then change to a glossy paper type which matches the media I'll be printing on. I could try adding some local contrast, but if I'm not happy with that result, I can easily double-click on the slider handle to reset it. I can experiment with structure enhancement instead. Adding a small amount may be beneficial here. Then I'll click Apply to commit the effect and return to the main photo workspace. I can hide this pixel layer to see the image before sharpening. Then show it again to see the result of the plugin. Now I'll show you another example, this time starting with a RAW file. I'll recover the highlight detail and push the brightness up. Then before I click Develop, I'll switch the output to a non-destructive RAW layer. This option can catch you out if you want to run plugins on the base image before any further work. If I go to the Filters menu and try to apply one of these plugins, they all appear grayed out. This is because this layer is not a pixel layer, it is a RAW layer. In order to run plugins on it, you'll need to rasterize it to a pixel layer. I'll duplicate it with Command-J on Mac, Control-J on Windows, so I have a backup copy. Then I'll right-click it and choose Rasterize. Now if I look at the plugins on the Filters menu, they are no longer grayed out. I'm interested in creating a black and white version of this photo, so I'll run the Silver Effects plugin. There are plenty of parameters to experiment with, but I'll have a look at the presets on the left. I can filter these by category. I'll go for Vintage, then apply Film Noir 1. This creates a stylized border and overlays a heavy film grain effect. The main focal area of the image is quite dark, however, so I'll fix this by increasing the dynamic brightness slider. I'll then bring the highlights slider down to reduce the overexposure slightly, and finally I can increase the structure slider to enhance the texture of the wall detail. Then I'll click Apply. Like with the previous example, the plugin effect has been applied to this duplicate layer, so I can easily hide it to see the original image, then show it again. On another example, I'll experiment with some photo effects. First, I'll duplicate the background layer, then run the Analog Effects plugin. From the presets on the left, I'll apply Classic Camera 3. This gives me a grungy, lo-fi look. I'll tweak this slightly, increasing the Detail Extractor slider. Then I'll click Apply. I'm not quite happy with the compression of the highlight details, but I can selectively blend this layer with the original image layer beneath it. To do this, I'll click on the cog icon here to access blend options. Then on the Source Layer Ranges graph, I'll drag the right-hand node down. This blends away the brighter areas of the layer. revealing the original highlight detail. I can hide this top layer to see just the original image, giving me a quick way of comparing the before and the after. As a final example, I have my image here where I've edited it to completion and I am applying some non-destructive sharpening. The image has some significant noise, however, exacerbated by the sharpening. What I want to do here is hide the bandpass sharpening group to disable that sharpening. Then select the layer beneath and use Merge Visible to create a pixel layer that I can apply a plugin filter to. I'll then run the Define plugin. And I'll go for a 300% view so I can see the noise reduction clearly. The default settings are sufficient for lowering the overall amount of noise without compromising the fine detail, but I could increase the contrast noise slider further to remove more of the noise. The comparison modes are very useful for noise reduction, since you can easily have a configurable side-by-side or mirror view of the before and after. In this case, the noise reduction is perhaps slightly too aggressive, so I'll reduce it, then click Apply. I can then show the bandpass sharpening group to bring the sharpening effect back. With reduced overall noise, there is now a much more palatable fine-grained texture across the image. And there we go, a guide on how to activate the NIC plugins, and some example use cases for integrating them into a workflow within Affinity Photo. Thank you for watching.